Hello, I'm Dylan.
I'm Kiyan.
This is Triple Play, that podcast where we develop Stockholm Syndrome, because we watched 1988 Bourne Identity TV film / miniseries.
I consider it a film.
Well,
Movie.
that's
Film is
just
a dumb
you.
word. Anyway, it was written by Carol Sobieski.
Directed by Roger Young, produced by Frederick Muller.
And aired in 1988. Over 2 nights.
Yeah, that's why some people consider it a miniseries and not a movie, because it was split over 2 nights. Two 2-hour slots because of ads. So it was the 3 hour and 5 minute movie, I guess, split over 2 nights, became 4 hours.
Yeah, so this was the original adaptation of the Bourne Identity, the book.
Apparently,
Musical, the movie on Mars. No.
apparently more accurate to the book than the movie.
The new movie.
All the new movies.
Yeah. Well, mainly because this doesn't ditch the villain, the main villain of the book, like the new movie does.
Yeah, well, the main villain was really underwhelming.
The main villain is, definitely. I mean, they kind of built him up to be like this enigmatic and mysterious guy, like what's his face in The Usual Suspects.
I haven't seen The Usual Suspects.
But you know the guy I'm talking about, right?
I actually don't.
Oh,
I don't know anything.
You don't know the spoiler that like
I don't know anything about it.
Oh, okay. That's like one of the most spoiled endings. I forgot his name though. Anyway, it's like this some super enigmatic criminal who lurks in the shadows and no one really knows who he is. Should I spoil it right now?
No.
Okay.
And well, yeah, they find him in like 20 minutes and then kill him. So.
Well, yeah, I guess what we're doing here is we're just kind of explain some of the vague differences / outline. I don't think we're gonna go too in depth on the plot because it's kind of complicated.
And very confusing in some places.
Some places. And I guess we're also just going to talk about what we liked that this did better, what we didn't like that this did worse than the other movie. Well, I guess just to start off, I jokingly said before we started watching this, like, whoa, watch it be better than the new one. But there were some parts of it that I actually did like better than the new Matt Damon Bourne Identity.
There were some parts, but I definitely preferred the new movie to this one.
Oh, the new one was like a lot more action-packed. The action scenes were a lot better.
The new one worked a lot better.
Bourne, well, honestly, in some ways, Bourne felt more human in this, but then in some ways, he didn't. Like the stuff with his surrogate dad or his adopted dad, but then like at the beginning when he just immediately turns into a cold-blooded killer, takes people hostage, and...
Well, yeah, it's like...
Matt Damon had like a slow evolution. Almost.
Well...
Maybe.
When you're watching this film, it begins the same way sort of the same way.
They show him getting shot.
They show that in the movie too.
Well, I didn't get maybe they show it, but like when we first watched it, didn't know if he was like getting shot or like what was happening. They show him like falling under the water, but here it's like really explicit. He gets shot, falls in the water.
Well, what I mean by the same way is he washes up on something. In the new one it's a boat, and this one it's like shore, and a doctor removes a bullet and bank account information from his head.
Yeah. And the doctor's more of a main character here.
Yeah,
Dr.
for
Washburn.
all of 20 minutes. He has this fleshed out backstory, and then he just disappears for the rest of the thing.
Where he's like, he's an English guy, and I guess
he's an alcoholic.
Yeah, he's now living in France because he killed 2 people on the operating table.
Well, I think it's supposed
supposedly.
to be... Yeah, they say he killed 2 people on the operating table, but he doesn't remember. Probably because he's an alcoholic.
So yeah, that's Washburn.
And then, Bourne like chills with some kids.
Yeah,
having a good time.
Yeah. I mean,
and then someone recognizes him and tries to kill him.
He's a lot less... Well, he wants to figure out about his past, but he seems more laid back than Matt Damon here. Matt Damon's like, gotta find out about my past. Who am I? But, you know, he has some time. He goes to like a restaurant, hangs out with some kids. I guess, well, I mean, when you find out at the end that he was a teacher, I guess it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, well, as soon as someone recognizes him, he goes into full assassin mode and tries to beat the dude into submission. Although he massively fails at first. He's got to get his training back. And then he decides to go to the bank because probably why in the new one why he's so quick to go find out about himself. Because in the new one, the doctor immediately reveals that
Yeah.
he extracted the bank information, whereas this one, the doctor doesn't tell Bourne that he took the bank information out of his hip.
Yep. And meanwhile, we hear radio programs and see newspaper clippings about Carlos, this mysterious assassin.
Who just killed Ambassador Leland.
Yeah, not, what's his name from the new one? I don't know his name. I don't remember his name.
I don't remember either, even though I've seen that film like 10 times.
Yeah, so, I mean, things take slightly a turn for the similar. He goes to Zurich.
He goes to the bank. He finds out his name at the hotel.
In a different way.
Yeah. But then instead of paying off a girl to drive him somewhere, he kidnaps some woman.
He kidnaps Marie. Felt a lot more, well, the relationship in this, between Bourne and Marie felt a lot more Stockholm-y than it did in the new one.
And very confusing.
Well, she didn't really go with him of her own free will at first, and then she kind of did, but didn't.
But then she didn't, and then she did. And then she didn't, but then she did.
Yeah, I felt very Stockholm-y, rather than in the first one where she kind of just wasn't really too great of a person herself. I mean, well, in this one she's Canadian, has like a pretty high-ranking job.
She's like an economist for the government.
Yep.
Yeah, kidnaps her. He gets her to take him to this restaurant. He finds out at the restaurant.
They drive all around all over the place, finding information. They have a shootout with this guy in a wheelchair. It's kind of cool.
They encounter the bad dudes who don't get named. They
have a run-in with the police.
Yeah,
some of the same stuff that.
Well, they convince Marie that they're the police, and Marie's like, "This guy's a killer. He's gonna kill me." And they're like, "Nice, take us to him." And then when they get to Bourne, they're like, "All right, throw in the river and kill her." And she's like, "What?" And Bourne's like, "You see what I mean?" Now, the weird thing was that it wasn't just Marie doing this weird. She's with him. She's not with him because Bourne at some point is like, "No, don't go," and then he's like, "No, stay. No, don't go. No, go. No, stay.
Don't stay. Stay. Don't go. Go. Don't stay."
So it was like, because Bourne.
Yeah, well, like every single character in this movie, betrayed someone at some point.
Well, Bourne kidnaps her at first, and then they get to the place, and then she's like, "I want to leave," and Bourne's like, "Okay, but if you leave, they're gonna kill you." And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, you should stay with me."
Yeah, it was weird, strange. Truer to the book, I guess.
I haven't read the book.
I don't. Well, I'm assuming it's truer to the book, and if that's the case, I'm not surprised they changed it in the new one.
Yeah, it's a little weird because then they have a TV safe sex scene later on.
It went on for like 5 minutes too.
Yeah, it did.
But yeah, they kind of do some of the same stuff as in New Bourne Identity, vaguely.
Which
sort of the same outline-ish.
That actually surprised me because I was under the impression that the new movie was a lot more different than this one was that it actually turned out to be.
Well, it takes some of the same like scenes, like Bourne calling people with a phone booth and like phone trickery, and him going. They use that same bridge in Paris where the new one he was like, "Come alone" or whatever. And it was the same thing.
Him meeting with the Treadstone guy, Conklin, and
well, Conklin was a lot less important
and didn't show up till over halfway through the film.
Yeah, in the original one, they kind of kept you interested in what was happening in the U.S. by having it interspersed, but here they kind of just show up halfway through. And I don't know, did you notice that all the North Americans, the Canadians, and the Americans, the U.S.A.ians, anyway,
nailed it.
The North Americans in this movie had really nasally voices. Did you notice that?
No.
Well, they did.
Thanks.
Except Bourne.
Yeah, well, Bourne, he transfers some funds to the Paris bank for some reason.
Yeah, he transfers his funds all around.
He transfers $7 million to the new bank, $1 million to the doctor who saved his life, and he leaves the remaining balance in the Zurich bank.
He asks for like some in cash.
Oh, yeah, and he takes out like $500,000.
He buys a $10,000 dress later.
But he
francs. That's a throwback there.
To what?
To Franks. Because they don't use them anymore.
Well, it was 1988.
Yeah. So it's a throwback. And watching it now is a throwback.
Yeah, but it wasn't a throwback when it was on.
Well, that's not important. We're not watching it
What?
when it was on. We're watching it now.
Okay. So he goes to the Paris bank. I guess he thinks that there's more information about who he is there. Everyone keeps referring to these procedures Jason Bourne put in place, but all these procedures seem to be put in place by the assassin Jason Bourne, not this Jason Bourne.
Yeah, he doesn't know if he's like really Jason Bourne or if there's another Jason Bourne. He thinks he's Carlos, maybe? And I thought that was kind of interesting, having this enigmatic figure. It's like, okay, maybe he's Carlos, maybe he's real Jason Bourne, maybe he's not really Jason Bourne. Is he Jason Bourne and Carlos?
But then the explanation they give you was like 1,000,000 times more confusing than it needed to be.
It was just confusing whether or not he actually killed people in Southeast Asia.
Well, it's confusing because they delivered the explanation to you through
a dying guy.
Yeah, through like
his dying father.
Through like 4 different people, and all of them gave slightly contradictory answers.
Well, that's all right. I didn't mind it. That's kind of interesting, actually. I kind of like that. It makes you think a little bit more.
They could have made it less confusing, though.
I was all right with it.
I was so lost, and I just gave up trying to understand it until David Abbott showed up and cleared everything up. And I was like, "Thanks, Abbott."
Well, I don't know. I liked his backstory here, but I mean, I wouldn't say I liked it any more or less than what we got in Bourne Ultimatum. That was kind of a very interesting ending to Bourne Ultimatum there. So it was less confusing, but that.
Well, I think also why the backstory for this one got confusing was because they were like, you didn't kill anyone, but he like explicitly kills like 6 people over the course of this movie. And then Marie's like, maybe they implanted those memories in you. And you're like, what?
That was just some kind of red herring type thing, I guess.
And,
anyway, yeah, they kind of just hang out for a little more. Everyone tries to kill each other. Nobody really trusts anyone.
Yeah, the first part ends with the phone ringing in the bank because the guy goes in to try to kill Marie, and she's like, oh, shoot.
Not really a cliffhanger. They just kind of split it right down the middle.
And they get out of that. Bourne just calls the bank and is like, just kidding, I have a flight to catch. Bye.
So, yeah, I mean,
another example, bank dude.
Yeah, another example sort of one of the scenes that is kind of the same, but like in a different context. He
eventually decides he's going to kill Carlos for whatever reason. He meets up with this general dude. He's like, General! And instead of just telling the general that he was his pal from the old days, he decides to be coy and like threaten the general's life. That confused me too.
Well, I don't know. I think he just kind of got back into his merciless killer instinct. No, I don't know.
But he didn't have a merciless killer instinct. That was the whole point.
But they trained him into having one.
Yeah, that was the whole point, is that he didn't have one, but he got trained.
So he went back to what his training induced? Even though that wasn't his original personality.
It's even more confusing because when they show the shots of the American people, the Treadstone people talking, they're all
really nasally voices now.
They're all really oblique about what they did to Bourne. They're like, he was undercover, and they're like, he was sent to kill Carlos. And like, well, maybe he joined Carlos, and like, he turned into what we trained him to be, and like, but he didn't actually kill anyone. It's like, I'm so lost.
Well, I think what it was is he was just this regular guy, David Abbott's adopted son. And,
David Webb.
Yeah. He was named after...
David Webb. Bourne's name before he got shot was David Webb.
Yeah, in the new one, he's Bourne and Webb. In this one, he's just Webb.
Yeah, it was Webb.
And they trained him to be the replacement for David Bourne.
Jason Bourne.
And then he lost his memory, and now he doesn't know who he is, so that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah.
So I guess the title is a bit more fitting here. Because, in the new Bourne Identity, it's like, okay, he's Bourne, that's his identity. Because he is, in the new trilogy, Matt Damon is Bourne and David Webb.
Yeah, Jason Bourne is technically a cover identity in both of them.
Well, yeah, because the U.S. government killed the real Jason Bourne in this.
Yeah. And then they made
David Webb into the new Jason Bourne
using plastic surgery and stuff. Their plan was to like draw Carlos out by claiming credit for Carlos's kills.
Yeah, essentially.
And then they would send
that didn't work, though.
Bourne in to kill Carlos, which is what happened right before the start of the film. Like Carlos puts a bullet in Bourne's back and he loses his memory. And then he shows up and starts killing Treadstone agents.
Like, there were those guys within the U.S. who were like, we gotta sabotage Treadstone.
Yeah, General Conklin was like, we gotta kill Bourne. And then David Abbott was like, now we don't know if Bourne has turned. And Abbott's like, he's already had 24 hours. Because they plant a message in the paper that Marie is wanted for the killings of some guys.
Yeah, well, the incident in Zurich.
She did kill one of them.
She did kill the guy, so... I mean...
Yeah. Marie gets back with Bourne at one point because Bourne stops one of those bad guys from raping her, and she's like, wow, I owe you my life.
There was a lot of flying to Canada in like 20 minutes and then flying back.
Yeah, Bourne's like, go fly back to Canada, and she goes to the Canadian embassy.
I'll just go to Canada in 10 minutes.
Well, I think she just went to the Canadian embassy.
What? Is that what it was?
Yeah. I thought she just went to the embassy and was like, maybe, and they were like, if you give us this information, we'll fly you back to Canada. And she's like, what?
Maybe that would make a lot more sense.
And then she bailed. She ran away.
Yeah.
And then Bourne is like, I expect you to be Canada by now. She's like, well, I ran away.
A lot more stuff happens. Bourne finds out his true identity, and he goes in to kill Carlos. They kind of reconcile, I guess. He reconciles with the Americans. Not really, because when David Abbott dies, he goes to his funeral and basically just tears Abbott a new one by basically saying, it was wrong, Abbott. You shouldn't have done this to me. Screw you, Abbott. Well, he says he wants to try and find a way to forgive Abbott for what he did. And like Abbott was his dad and stuff.
That was buried under the speech of what you did was wrong, Abbott. It wasn't
buried. It was at the end. He's like, I have to find a way to forgive Abbott and learn how to love again.
Yeah, well, the first way not to do that is to basically come to his funeral and think all these thoughts about how Abbott was a terrible person.
Well, why not? You have to accept it to get over it.
Yeah, but he just died. You couldn't wait till like after the funeral. Plus, it was actually really harshly worded. Was the only reason why I brought it up.
I didn't think it was. I liked that ending there.
I don't know. It felt off. Because Bourne was like trying to regain his David Webb identity, and it was like he knew he wasn't a killer, but when Abbott died, he blames Abbott for everything he did. When like most of the stuff Bourne did was actually of his own accord.
It probably just fell off because it was the only like inner monologue in the entire thing.
No, I just explained why it felt off to me. Is that everything Bourne did in this film was of his own accord. It wasn't really Abbott's fault.
It was part of his training that he knew how to do all that. I don't know. I can understand where he's coming from.
And then it ends.
Yeah, well, they have the big shootout. It actually wasn't really a big shootout. He has a confrontation with Carlos in New York, and they actually have the falling down the flight of stairs thing. So, I guess maybe either intentionally or unintentionally, that's where it comes from.
Jason Bourne must also be totally invincible because he gets stabbed in the chest, sliced across the neck, and shot in the leg during the shootout. And then at the end of the shootout, he's just standing there, totally fine.
Well, Carlos actually lives falling down those like 4 stories.
So that was nonsense.
But he does die. Carlos dies.
And then Jason Bourne just goes and sings, like, I'm going to kill all of you. I'm going to kill all of you. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I honestly thought he was just going to shoot all of them right there, including Marie.
And then Marie's like, Jason, I love you. Jason's like, Marie. And then it ends.
Mm-hmm. So, I thought I would really dislike this, but I didn't. I enjoyed it.
I went into it expecting it to be like a typical TV movie, i.e. pretty mediocre, and I was correct. It's pretty mediocre.
There were some parts that I definitely liked more than in the new one. Like, once David Abbott shows up, Bourne does feel like a lot more human than maybe he does in the latter half of the new Bourne Identity. But in the beginning, he definitely feels more like a killing machine.
Yeah,
the thing is that I feel like Matt Damon's progression into his assassin identity was made a little more sense because like he actually was a trained assassin who for sure killed people. Here we don't really know, and also because it felt a little bit more gradual, even though it was a shorter movie. Here it just felt like he learned he was an assassin, so all of a sudden he's an assassin.
But then the movie keeps trying to fake you out with Marie and the dress lady and the bank guy all trying to convince Bourne that. Well, they're all trying to convince him of different things. Like, the bank guy was like, "You're an assassin." And Marie was like, "There's no way you could be an assassin. You care too much about me." Yes, her logic is you care too much about me to be an assassin.
Well, I think she knows that he was an assassin previously, but, like, now he's a new person because he lost his memories. So I think that's where she was going with that. Maybe, possibly. Even though he might not have been a real assassin before, maybe he was just, I don't know.
See, I don't think he killed anyone ever until the course of this film.
I think maybe he did, but, well, he definitely saw those people die.
Yeah.
In Southeast Asia.
But I don't think it was him who killed them.
Yeah, it wasn't. He didn't kill the family. Definitely didn't kill them.
That plot that came up...
It was Carlos who did that.
Yeah, well, those flashbacks show up for the first 40 or so minutes of the film. He sees things and they remind him of this Asian family, and then they just drop that for 2 hours, and then it shows up in the final 20 minutes. He sees something in the Treadstone house, and then he remembers the whole thing. You're like, oh yeah, that was a thing that happened at the beginning of this film.
Right, I didn't really care. But
it was okay.
There was also the part about the French dude and his wife was working for Carlos and all of that.
Yeah, the general, who Bourne doesn't just tell he's his buddy. Bourne. Because they make a big deal about this picture that Bourne was at this general's son's funeral.
Yeah.
And Marie's like, well, you must have been the general's friend, right? And then they go kidnap the general instead of just being like, I'm Jason Bourne. Can you tell me?
Yeah, I guess they hold him at gunpoint, but yeah, at first I thought it was really messed up. I was like, wow, that mom killed her own son, but I guess it was just her adopted son, which is still pretty messed up.
Well, then you find out she's been Carlos's sex toy, I guess, for lack of better terms, since she was 13.
There's a lot more better terms you could use 13.
There. Well, I call her a whore in the film. I don't want to call her a whore. I'm pretty sure they
call her a sex toy.
I'm pretty sure they straight up call her.
Yeah, they do.
Carlos's whore since she was 13.
Yeah, they do. They also call her his lover, but yeah, she doesn't escape. She doesn't make it out alive like almost every character.
Yeah, like
it's true. Most of them die.
No, both of the bank guys survive. The dressmaker lady survives.
No, doesn't she die?
No. Oh yeah, she gets killed by Carlos.
Yeah, she dies in yeah. Did you notice? I don't remember where this was. I guess it was in the U.S., but the cemetery with all the unmarked gravestones lined up, and then there's like one Star of David. I thought that was kind of interesting. Not funny, but it was just like, oh look, there's just one Star of David. I guess it's proportional to real life.
I guess maybe. It was just I don't think it was intentional. It was just cemetery.
They're probably just filming at a cemetery. It just happened to be there. But
yeah, so the first time Marie goes to the embassy, she doesn't tell them that Bourne's not a killer, but then when she flies into the US and gets detained by US agents, she tells them he's not a killer and they just believe her. So one wonders why she didn't just do that the first time.
All the characters were a little bit more weird in this, including Marie and Bourne.
You mean they all had confusing character motivations?
No, not necessarily. They were just...
Confusing as in they kept flipping?
Well, I mean, that makes sense. She essentially... Yeah, I mean, it was our intro. She's essentially had Stockholm Syndrome. I don't know if you can say it without saying syndrome.
She has Stockholm. It sounds like a disease if you say it like that. She's got Stockholm.
Well, it's like a syndrome, so it's almost the same as like a disease, right?
I guess kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's in the same category. I think. I'm just going to put it in the same category.
Wouldn't like a syndrome be like a mental thing and not like an actual disease?
I have no idea.
Well,
it's a villain from
you can look it up.
Incredibles. Yeah, look up the definition of syndrome. That'll be a fun 2 minutes.
Did you ever see that that deleted scene with Syndrome where he shows up to get Jack and he's like, yeah, the S stands for sitter. I could have put babysitter on my shirt, but I didn't want to walk around wearing BS on my shirt.
I've seen that.
Didn't get that joke till I was a lot older.
They put that in the credits, right?
I don't know. I don't remember where I saw it. Anyway, I don't know. It was okay. It was a thing. I don't think I'd ever go back. I'm talking about this movie. I don't think I'd ever go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. Then again, I probably wouldn't go back and rewatch the new one.
I'd go back and rewatch the new one.
I rewatch Bourne Ultimatum.
Because it's on TV every single day.
Music in this was...
No, wait, I would rewatch the first one, because the new one's coming out and it'll be exactly the same as the first one. I can already tell straight from the trailers.
Well, music in this was... well, it wasn't drum and bass.
It wasn't too exciting either.
It wasn't exciting. It was, kind of a regular score.
It existed. It fulfilled its purpose.
It had, like, some nice little motifs there, continued on from beginning to end, but, yeah. It
wasn't unique or memorable, though.
Nope. I mean, I couldn't whistle it right now, if you ask me, so...
But you could whistle that ending to the
Well, I don't think it's possible to whistle that.
You could try, though.
No. I can actually whistle, by the way. That's not what my normal whistling sounds like. It was just a joke.
Yeah, that's why I'm cracking up so much.
Yeah. I think that's that.
I actually don't have anything else to say about this.
No, not
surprisingly.
Really.
I felt like I had more. We should talk about the hilarious subtitles, though.
Oh, yeah. We watched a version that had subtitles, which were kind of funny because they didn't match what the characters were saying. They kind of did, but not. They like 100%.
Matched. It's like someone got the gist of what they were going to say and used that as the subtitles.
And pressed 0 every time they meant to press O. Well, it was actually just on anytime someone said no, it was N0. Instead of N-O. And every time I read it, I just read it as no! So even when a character was like, no, or like, just no, don't put that over there, put it over here. I was like, no, don't put that over there, put it over here. Or like when Marie was telling Bourne that he wasn't a killer, like, gently or whatever. She's like, no, you're not a killer.
Well, they also made a hilarious mistake with the word aisle as an I apostrophe LL. Somehow they put capital L instead of capital I, so it was L apostrophe LL. Murlocs from World of Warcraft.
And there were other like subtle differences, which I don't know how that happened. I guess they were using a different version of the script for some.
Or the actors just like improvise their lines.
Just the entire movie was almost just semi-improvised. Everyone... Okay.
Have you seen the first Iron Man film?
Nope.
Apparently, they just came out like 2 weeks ago and said that they did that for the first Iron Man film. The quote-unquote script was like synopses of each scene, but the exact like words that they said, they made up. Like, they did a quick rehearsal of the scene to make up the dialogue, and then they just recorded it. And somehow it came up being a good movie. But yeah,
that's what they do on God, what is that show?
Whose Line Is It Anyway?
No. It's a sitcom with Larry David.
Oh, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, that's what they do on that.
I actually like that show. It's pretty funny.
It's a pretty funny show.
It's coming back for a new season, I think, soon.
No, I only watched like season 8 or some random season.
My dad owns like the first 3 seasons on DVD, and the DVD cover is shoot, I don't remember now. I don't remember if that was this or some other random film called Evolution. One of the two has a 3-eyed smiley face on it. I can't remember if it was Curb Your Enthusiasm or Evolution. Evolution was a weird film, by the way. I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but...
A little bit? Well, just go on with it. I mean...
That's all I wanted to say. Evolution was a weird film.
Okay. Well, I'll have to borrow those Curb Your Enthusiasm DVDs at some point.
They might be South African region.
Yeah,
if you didn't know, for this show, I actually own like quite a few of the trilogies we want to watch, but they're all South African region, so we have to like get creative in how we watch them. And by get creative, I mean borrow them from friends.
Or use other methods, which will remain unnamed.
We haven't done anything sketchy for this show.
Well, I mean,
except for this. This is actually the sketchiest thing we've done. So we watched it on YouTube.
Well, no, but I mean the Bourne movies that we borrowed. You know.
But we borrowed them, so it's not on us.
Whatever.
We haven't done anything sketchy for this show.
Apparently those DVDs we borrowed don't work on computers, but do on
just
DVD.
The third one. Just Ultimatum.
Just Ultimatum?
Just Ultimatum.
All right.
Well, because you owned Back to the Future, and we watched Jurassic Park off of Amazon Prime.
It's the only one we bought. And the next thing we're going to watch, I own.
Yeah.
2 of them. So we'll need to find out a way to get
a lot of the
one.
films we've watched, we've borrowed from my friend who has this massive DVD collection in the garage, so...
A lot of them are unopened. I've seen this collection, and a lot of them are unopened.
So in case you were ever wondering what we did for this show, we borrow it from friends. We don't do anything sketchy for this show.
Most of the time.
Yeah, except for the random 0.5 episodes where it's like nobody owns the 1988 Bourne TV movie.
I wonder if this was ever even released.
Yeah, it was on DVD.
DVD?
Yeah, it was.
All right. I thought it might have just been like a VHS.
It's got an IMDb page, too. It's rated 6.9 out of 10.
All right. Yeah,
With 3,000 votes.
I thought it might have just been like a DVD, or a VHS only type of thing, but I guess not.
It might actually, maybe you're right. Maybe it only came out on VHS. Well, I guess we can look that up for the show notes.
Yeah.
Anyway, email us at thedoctordecadavegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, thoughts on 1988 Bourne. We have an email to read to you guys that we received after the last episode.
All right.
It's before this one.
Do you want to read it, and then I'll just make the snarky comments?
The snarky comments you made off recording when we were reading it?
Don't tell them that.
Okay, it's from Steven again. I've noticed something
Steven.
about the Bourne movies. Mm-hmm. The 3 installments of the Matt Damon trilogy came out in 2002, 2004, and 2007. Mm-hmm. The years that each of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies came out. Mm-hmm. And 2012, the year that the Bourne Legacy came out, is the year that the Amazing Spider-Man reboot came out.
Mm-hmm.
The sequel came out in 2014, but no Bourne movie came out that year, so just ignore it for the sake of this thought.
Okay.
And now 2016 with Spider-Man and Civil War and Matt Damon and Jason Bourne.
It's a bit of a stretch.
Seems to be some sort of return in a way for each character. Coincidence? You decide. Yeah, probably. Also, why do Jason Bourne and James Bond have the same initials? Total coincidence.
I thought it might have been intentional, like, maybe Robert Ludlum was like, okay, JB.
I think it was coincidence. I couldn't actually find anything on why Jason Bourne is named Jason Bourne, but if you want to know why James Bond is named James Bond, it's because when Ian Fleming was writing Casino Royale...
Cheers and Frasier.
Yeah, Cheers and Frasier, Steven.
I didn't see that before. It's pretty, it's funny. Well, it's like slightly funny.
Anyway, when Ian Fleming was writing Casino Royale, he had a copy of like James Bond's Guide to Birds or something. It was like a bird watching book. This guy named James Bond. So Ian Fleming used the name. Ian Fleming actually stole a lot of people's names for his books. Like Goldfinger was like suspiciously close to one of his neighbors who he like strongly disliked, and I think his neighbor sent him a strongly worded letter about making him the villain in one of his novels. But anyway, that's if we ever start a James Bond podcast. We can talk more about all that nonsense trivia.
Or if we ever watch them for this, which might happen.
Maybe. When we've done with actual trilogies.
Well, I mean, we've already done some questionable stuff.
We've done one.
It's not coming. It hasn't out yet. It'll be out.
It's the next episode, actually. Next episode. So anyway, yeah, you can find us on YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play, all at Triple Play. Remember, the next episode comes out on September 7th is the first Wednesday of September.
Yep. Also check us out on Facebook at Triple Play, or just facebook.com/3P Podcast, and check us out on Twitter at 3P Podcast, and follow us on Twitter, and also like us on Facebook. I didn't say that, but also do it. And yeah, next time we'll do a whole new trilogy.
A whole new world.
Not that trilogy, but until then, the end.